Hey guys, this is Oliver Codd, and today I'm going to walk you through the Rhythmic Cinema Devices Ukulele. This is the first instrument in a new series of products that we developed with performance samples, and I'm really excited to show you what it's all about. The thing that's really unique about this library is that rather than recording one note at a time, we actually sampled from true performances. So we had the players actually play repetitions, and then we took the individual notes from those performances and reprogrammed them into Contact. And the result is that you get a very fluid, connected, and realistic performance. So without further ado, let's just hop in and I'm going to start diving through all the different sounds and colors. So let's go. So you'll notice right off the bat that the library is very dry. And this was intentional. We thought that because of the nature of the library, where we're going to be creating a lot of rhythms and grooves and likely going to be processing them for, new kind of sound design textures and whatnot, that recording the library dry seemed to make the most sense. Something else I'd like to mention from the beginning is that the nature of this library requires that we have a certain amount of sample offset. And the reason this is because there's a little bit of detail before the transient that we have to keep in there because it contributes to that connected feeling when you play one note to another. So if I just play one note, you'll hear that it has this very connected feel. Now, because a lot of you are probably not going to be used to playing in an instrument with so much latency, what I would suggest is that for playing in live, I would take the offset control and dial that up to whatever amount feels good to you, but for the sake of demonstration, I'm going to put it at 0 milliseconds. So you'll hear you have no latency there, but the problem is that you lose the transient completely. So what I would do is I would play it in, and then once the performance is complete, I would dial it back to negative 200 milliseconds, and then I would compensate for that in my DAW. So that's just something I wanted to discuss from the beginning because I think a few people are kind of confused as to why that is inherent in the design, and that's the reason. So let's just check out some of these different plucking styles because we've got a lot. A hard pluck. String 1. Sorry for my bad playing, but that's just the way it is. Okay, you'll see here we got hard pluck string 1, hard pluck string 2, 3, 4. So we sampled different plucks on different strings, which resulted in completely different tones. So let's just check out hard pluck string 2. See, listen to that. That's a completely different sound. Okay. We also did medium plucks. Muted plucks. Super high range. Picks muted. Muted soft. Unison pluck. Low tuning. It almost sounds like a completely different instrument, which is what I think is cool, is like experimenting with all these playing styles. It essentially gives you an instrument that is not really a ukulele anymore. You know, it's something completely new, which I love. All right. Now we didn't just get plucks, we got a ton of kind of prepared playing styles like finger tapping. So let's check that out. So very percussive. I think I'm gonna use this patch as a way to demonstrate the sequencer. So we've got a sequencer that goes up to 32 bars. I'll put it at like 16 for now. The tempo down a little bit. Okay. Starting to get me a little bit inspired to put some processing on there. Let's throw in a delay. Let's see. Right now the sequencer is in ARP mode, so it's going to play an arpeggio, but I think something like this would benefit from strum mode, which essentially just plays it back in unison if you play a chord. I mean, so you can see that just using the sequencer, I'm getting a lot better results than trying to play it in, which is part of the reason why we included it, is because the library just sounds great with the sequencer. So something worth talking about is the fact that Performance Samples libraries, Performance Samples who we collaborated with, they make sure that by default the libraries are perfectly tight and consistent. So you never have to like worry about a note being slightly off time or a little bit too loud or having a tone that kind of doesn't fit in with the others. They're extremely consistent, which is great for something like this. But I personally like to make things a little bit more human, like add that randomness. And it's nice to be able to actually dial that in rather than fight it to try and tighten things up, which I think can be the case in some other libraries. But without getting too rambly about it, we included some controls that help to humanize the performance if you want to use the sequencer. I know humanization is an easy thing to do within your DAW, but within Contact and running a sequencer, it's not necessarily. So we've got a random velocity control, a looseness control, and a pitch variation control. And basically all of these contribute to kind of just creating that little bit of humanness in there. So let's dial in some of these parameters and see how it affects the sound. pretty cool. I like that. The velocity switch basically is like functions like a compressor. So if you've got it all the way down to 0, the lowest dynamic is going to be just as loud as the highest dynamic. I kind of like to dial it in sometimes around here, like 85%. Okay. If we want, we can control dynamics with the mod wheel. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, well, I'm kind of digging this sound. Let's take a look at the modulation page. We have a dual band AHDSR mod, which is, in simplified terms, an AHDSR routed to a high-pass filter and one routed to a low-pass filter, as well as one that's traditional, which is just affecting the level. And what's cool about having the dual bands is that you can really shape the frequencies. So it's like if you have low-end information that is carrying on a little bit longer than you want in the sustain, you can cut that short without cutting the high frequency. So it's a lot more transparent. Well, let's just take a listen to how this sounds with the traditional AHDSR. You'll notice there's no attack knob, and that's because under the hood, the script is automating the attack based on how you play. So we didn't really want to give users access to the attack if it was going to screw up the performance. So that's why we didn't include it. So like maybe I just want the transient, pull out some of the tone of that. Note interruption is essentially cutting one note short when the next note comes in. So it essentially automates the process of cutting the sustains short so that you don't get overlap between a bunch of samples. And I would just experiment with seeing how that sounds both on and off. I usually leave it on in this case. It works particularly well with dry libraries because you don't have any room ambience where you can hear it cutting into the sample. So I think it works really well with this library. I'm going to pull up another patch type and we can keep checking out the sequencer. There's finger tapping. Let's try the maybe the muted plex. While it's going, do like 16 bars. Turn this on. We'll do like strum again. So that's really nice. Within the sequencer, you have the ability to save. So let's say just muted strum A. All of your settings from the sequencer, which is cool, and then you can just load those back in. We also have the ability to take all of the MIDI from the sequencer, capture it, and drag it into your DAW if you want to be able to program it further, so that's really nice. I think I haven't mentioned we've got swing modes. So the rep patches comprise or make up, I'd say, about 80% of the library. The Rhythmic Cinema Devices series is really based around these playable rep patches. We also included atonal patches, so we've got pats. Take the delay off real quick. Let's check it out with the sequencer. Okay, say mono mode. Rather than playing based on notes that you're triggering on the keyboard, it works based on intervals. So 2 would be 2 notes above the root note that you're playing on the keyboard. That's kind of annoying, but it shows you what's going on there. So if the number is white, that means it's an interval above. And if it's red, well, these don't go below, but I'll show you in the tonal patches, they do go below. We also got strums, atonal. Let me pull up one of the tonal patches again just to show mono mode real quick. So that just shows you how these are working, and I guess I wanted to demonstrate that these go below. So a red 2 is an interval down, and a white 2 is an interval above. So this mode is particularly useful if you've got a very specific melody or groove that you want to play every time you hit a key. ARP mode is better for kind of having it follow chords that you're playing in real time. So just 2 totally different ways of using the sequencer. And while we're on that topic, I'm just going to pull up a couple of multis which demonstrate the sequencer being used in both ways. So let's check out Jasper's Midnight multi. Take the tempo down. So you can hear, or you can see now, that he's got this going on, ARP mode for all of these. Or I guess this one's strum. So he's got a lot going on. He's a clever guy, isn't he? I'm going to just mess around with his multi a little bit because it's so cool. Sorry, Jasper, if you feel like I'm butchering it. I'm going to put in a little bit of randomness into some of these. Just a little bit here and there. Random. Do the same here. Probably doing it way too much, but what are you gonna do? Cool. Let's process it a little bit. Why not? Put some delay on there. I think we should. Delay. In groove, subtle eighth. See, I've messed it up already. Beautiful. Put a little reverb on there. Just a smidge. That's not a smidge. What's cool about it is, like, depending on what you play, you just get like different results every time. And of course, because these aren't loops, these are actually playing back the samples. You can play them at any tempo and they'll still sound great. For the sake of demonstration, why don't we crank up the tempo now? It's a bit wild. Let's see. Oops. Yeah, see, suck at playing. Let's put on a filter maybe. Anyway, yeah, I could sit here and play this for hours, which is a sign that you've got a good library, I think. So let me put in another multi that I was building earlier, and we can see how it compares with how I'm using the sequencer there. So let me just see if I can find this. Hopefully this isn't messing up my recording. Alright, so you can see here we've got like an interval thing going on. I want to make this more minor. That's kind of cool. Just gives you a yeah, I mean, that's kind of how the library can be used in a very different way than the first multi we just saw. So let us proceed. So we also included some atonal patches. All right, I'm not going to do this again, so I'm just going to... These were recorded using reps as well. Shakers. Strums. I think I went through this already. And then we got a bunch of riffs, which are essentially loops, so little performances. Put this exactly where it is. So we have the option of doing half speed, double speed, or you can play it in by velocity. So at the lowest velocity, it's doing half speed, or the highest speed. Playing the highest velocity is half speed, and then right in the middle is normal. Okay. So we got a bunch of riffs, all sorts of percussive stuff at multiple tempos. We have some experimental stuff like this bonus balloon, where we took a balloon and used the ukulele as a resonator, and it sounds like this. Let me put out the right tempo. So yeah, that's kind of cool. And then we got riffs of, you know, just the uke playing traditionally. Let's put it at 120. You know, harmonic plucks. Just tons of content. $180. So, you know, this kind of stuff is really useful. If you want to layer it on top of the existing grooves you've made, it just gives it a little bit more of a human element. So yeah, I'm not going to play through all of these. Maybe I'll do a separate video that's dedicated just to the riffs. But for now, I just really wanted to focus on the rep stuff. So anyway, I think that covers the majority of the library. I can't go through every sound, but it gives you a sense of what the design of this is meant to do. And definitely check out the demos on audioollie.com/uke, because those will give you a better sense of how this is meant to function in context. But yeah, anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching. I hope it was useful. And I'll be posting more content throughout the coming weeks. All right, guys, see you later.